Now, in the aftermath of Liz Truss's resignation today, all eyes have turned to who will take her place in what's sure to be a lightning-fast and potentially dodgy stitch-up of an election. Currently, Boris Johnson, who is reportedly considering running for the top job again, is leading polls among Tory members, with Boris backstabber Fishy Rishi Sunak coming in close second. He is also said to have the biggest backing amongst MPs. His 42 supporters is just under the combined total of Sunak and Penny Mordaunt. And with rising stars like Suella Braverman also potentially going to throw their hat into the ring, it's shaping up to be a saturated ballot. But who should be elected as our new Prime Minister to save both the party and Britain from disaster? Send me your thoughts to dan@gbnews.uk. Tweet me at GBNews. We also want your say on who you're backing to be PM. Is it Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, Penny Mordaunt or Suella Braverman? Let me know by voting in our Twitter poll. I'll bring you those results shortly. But joining me now to show who they're backing is the Conservative commentator and Penny Mordaunt supporter Alex Dean, the former Conservative parliamentary candidate and co-organiser of the Bring Back Boris petition, Alex Story, and political commentator Suzanne Evans. Great to have you all here, and the Conservative woman editor, Cathy Gingell, too. So, Alex, look, I've got to come to you first because you are one of the leaders of this BBB campaign, Bring Back Boris. Now, just a few hours ago, it looked so unlikely that he would reach the threshold of 100 MPs, which the 1922 committee had clearly set to try and keep him out of the race. However, as of tonight, lots of sources telling me it's looking very good and Boris has the early momentum. Is that what you're hearing?
There's two Alexes on the show, and one of my great friends is Alex Dean. Do you mean Alex Story or do you mean Alex Dean?
Alex Story. Alex Story, you, because you're the BBB campaign, right?
I'm the triple B, which is nearly junk, but with a little plus. The point is that the Tory party is in an impasse, and the only way that it can recover is just by allowing Boris to see out his term. I mean, it's an insanity to try and replace anybody else after this disaster, this car crash, which we had with Penny Mordaunt and Kwasi and everything, and everybody else. But Penny is what can Penny do? Penny cannot win the country. Penny is not an impressive character. She's all right, but she's not. She doesn't have the character to be able to carry the North. She doesn't have the standing to be able to win the country. Boris has the legitimacy. He won he won 14 million votes. He won the 80-seat majority, and he also won the vote of no confidence, which means that anybody who says that this is a parliamentary democracy, therefore we should have done away with Boris because this is the way things are going, their argument is done, right? So I'm not sure where they go. The Tory party has one last chance to succeed, and the only person who can bring the country together is Boris. And we all know this. The idea that anybody else can do it is fantasy. And I like everybody on the show, but there's no other way out. It's either that or oblivion.
OK, very strong case, although your friend, who you refer to, Alex Dean. Alex, you have a different opinion. You actually think it's Penny Mordaunt who has the early momentum.
I'm really sorry. I don't think that at all. And I don't know where you've got that idea. Like last time, I believe that Kemi Badenoch should leave the Conservative Party. And with no disrespect meant to Penny Mordaunt, I would never back her and never have. Of course, of the four people you've got in your Twitter poll, if those are the options, I would vote for Suella Braverman, who I've known for a very long time, who I think is a tremendous politician. I think is exceptionally able. It was interesting listening to my friend Alex Story and the points that he made. It's very hard to disagree with a lot of those, but I would also say, look, I was like the last Japanese soldier on his jungle island arguing the case for the Prime Minister not to be defenestrated. I did the media round, Good Morning Britain and so forth, the day he went, saying that he should not go and saying how wrong I thought it was. But it feels to me like now, like we've got to move forward. And someone like Kemi Badenoch, to me, is a proper conservative, great free market, small state values, and is somebody too that demonstrates vivid change in the Conservative Party, makes it exceptionally difficult for the Labour Party to run out all their old attack lines. And for me, that's the way of the future.
Sorry about that, Alex. I was misinformed. Suzanne Evans, do you agree with Alex Dean? Should it be Kemi Badenoch? Because right now, not one MP has come out to support her.
If I personally could be the kingmaker, I'd say Kemi Badenoch, absolutely. But what would be the point? Kemi Badenoch will be crucified in the same way that Liz Truss would have been as well. She is seen to be on the right of the party. She's seen to be anti-mass immigration. She's seen to be anti-woke. These were things that Liz Truss stood for, and she's been absolutely ripped apart by it, by the media, by the Liberal Party wing of her own party, by the markets. I'm afraid I don't think Kemi Badenoch would fare any better. I think really and truthfully, the only person that it could be is Boris, and every Conservative member I've spoken to today is saying, bring back Boris. Now, personally, I think Boris is the person that got us into this mess. He was the one that took that very hard line on lockdown, determined to shut down the country, quantitative easing, furlough payments, etc., that have led to the rampant inflation that we've seen. Of course, the big $64 million question is, does Boris Johnson want the job? Until we know whether he's actually going to put his name on the ballot paper or not, it's all a little bit of a bit of a pie in the sky exercise. Nobody really knows.
Kathy Gingell, look, I think it's got to be Boris, but actually, if he doesn't put himself in the race, I'd love to see the right unite around Suella Braverman, who I think in her very short stint as Home Secretary showed that she does actually have the balls to take on the blob and make the tough decisions. Do you agree?
Well, of course, Suella Braverman is the only one of this group of four who has any principle, moral courage, or even any place on a moral compass at all. It will be the most cynical of jokes, and it will be the ultimate self-stabbing act of the Conservative Party if they cynically put back in the Prime Minister, who first of all got us into this mess with Rishi Sunak, created the 500 billion lockdown debt that was left for Liz Truss to think, Christ, what am I going to do about that? It's just not feasible. This is a revengeous tragedy that's going on. The Conservative Party is sort of morally void now. Suella Braverman, it will be a poison chalice. Nobody will vote for her anyway. My advice to Suella Braverman and all the decent people in the Conservative Party is resign the whip now. This party is a shameful disgrace. It's completely separate from the country, from the grassroots. I think you tweeted about that yourself yesterday very succinctly. It's showing contempt for what the grassroots wants. Boris is a proven liar. Rishi Sunak didn't have the moral courage to defy lockdown when he knew it was wrong. Who are these people? Penny Mordaunt's economical with the truth. I mean, who would want to be associated with any of them? Leave the party or resign the whip, stand as independents and give the country a chance to vote for people who actually might stand for you, not for their own entitled globalist technocratic interests.
Well, look, I do agree with you, Kathy, that there does need to be some type of fundamental shake-up in our political system, absolutely, because it's democracy itself that seems at threat at the moment. But specifically, Alex Story, I want you to respond, because Kathy had some harsh words there for your man, Boris.
She's completely right. In everything that she said, I'm completely with her. There's nothing about what she said that I disagree with. We've had 12 years of a supposedly conservative administration that was essentially a continuation of New Labour. The only thing I'm saying is that the principle is the following. Somebody gets elected to power. It is the people of this country who decide whether or not that person gets to keep the job or not. Now, a lot of people, pedants in many ways, say that this is a parliamentary democracy. But the point is that he also won the no confidence vote in June. He also had a very good run at the local elections, where the Labour Party won fewer votes in the south of England than the Conservative Party won in the north of England. The bottom line is, whether you like his morals or not, that's not the point at all. We all agree that the Conservative Party is a sham in all sorts of ways. It's revealed itself in the last few days as a complete joke.
But this is about democracy.
He was elected. It is about democracy.
It's about democracy. No, I think you've made a really good point, Alex. And Suzanne Evans, it was the point I was trying to make to Dominique Samuels earlier. I think there are huge problems in our entire political system. I think democracy is being subverted. And I absolutely believe, and we're going to be talking about it later in the show, there needs to be a shake-up on the right in this country so that there can be a proven force. I agree with all of that. But to me, Suzanne, this decision comes down to democracy. And we need to prove to the Blob and the MSM and the political establishment, if they try to subvert democracy, there's going to be trouble. Sorry, did you want to come in, Alex Dean?
I did, just to say that I think one way, I agree with some of the criticisms that were offered of the Conservative Party. Of course, I'm on the right of the party and would like to be more conservative. But one unambiguously conservative thing that this government has done is to deliver Brexit. And I feel that that's under threat, depending on who we choose as our leader to the next piece. And I also think, without going too much into the archaeology, that was a big part of why a lot of people had to go at Boris Johnson. They just could not abide the fact that he delivered on our popular will and got us out of the European Union. I think that was a big thing that did for him.
Absolutely. Final word to you, Suzanne?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I absolutely agree with what you're saying, Dan. We have seen democracy overturned. We've seen the Conservative Party members have their will completely overturned by their own party. I can't see the point of being a member of the Conservative Party anymore. If I was a member, I think I'd be ripping up my membership card and sending it back to HQ, because MPs have completely ignored the person that I would have put into Downing Street, Liz Truss, who I think had a great mandate for the country, and they've just ripped it up and chucked it away. I'm very disappointed she didn't have the personal strength of character to see it through. I'm very disappointed she U-turned. I think she should have stuck to her guns. I'm afraid that first U-turn, she was toast.
Kathy, she was a letdown, wasn't she? And I had such high hopes.
Yes, it showed a lack of moral character. Again, it comes down to this. People don't like to discuss this, but her first time, as soon as she stabbed Kwasi, and as soon as she stabbed Suella, you can't do that.
Oh, no, it was done. It was done. I'm sorry. The moment she U-turned on the 45p top tax rate, it was done, because they had her. They had won, and she showed that she didn't have the steel of the iron. In saying that, we're going to talk about this later in the show too. I feel deeply sorry for her, because imagine what it feels like to be Liz Truss tonight. It must be very difficult. Conservative woman. Editor Kathy Gingell, Conservative commentator Alex Dean, former Conservative parliamentary candidate, co-organiser of the Bring Back Boris petition, Alex Story, the political commentator Suzanne Evans. You are all brilliant. Thank you all so much.